because that way, well, my friends can watch along with me and, make comments and, snide remarks. They can do whatever they want. And if you did the same thing, your friends could, join you and talk about the content of the program while it's going on. And they'll be like, wow, you are incredible. How can you do this? You must be somehow tied to Facebook. Do you own the company? That's what they're going to ask. Really. Share it and find out. But it does appear that is running. Let's see. That is working. This is working. So, therefore, guess what? We are ready to go for a rip-roaring show about, well, the ever-hated topic of politics. So, yeah, here we go. You are listening to The American Soundbite, a podcast that features common sense thoughts of an everyday American. This is the start of the most valuable 10 minutes of your Sunday morning, so congratulations on joining us. I'm certainly glad that you're along for the ride today. Hey, before we get started, I bet you could think of one or even more people in your life, whether it's friends, family members, maybe coworkers, who might be a little less conversive than you, maybe just less interesting to be around, or just, lagging on current events and topics to talk about around the water cooler or in the Zoom meeting or even at dinner time tonight. Well, if you share the American Soundbite with them, let them know that you start your day by listening to it and that they should too. They will thank you over and over again with, well, great content in every conversation you have with them. Are you looking forward to the upcoming election cycle, to the election season that we're about to be thrust upon us? Are you excited to watch the debates between Joe Biden and Donald Trump? Are you one of those people who is going to watch the ads and listen to the commentary and watch the debates and ask questions and have an open mind about which way you're going to vote, Republican or Democrat, for President of the United States? Or are you one of those people who has already made up your mind? Do you know that you're riding with Biden? Or maybe you're on the Trump train, and it doesn't matter what your candidate does or the other candidate says, it's not going to change your mind. Well, I've got something for all of you, regardless of which situation you're in. I've got something for all of you to consider about, well, the way that you're looking at or evaluating or determining the presidential election this year. And here it goes. Are you ready? You may want to slow this down so that you catch every single word. Maybe get out a pen so you can write it down. Make it maybe a Sharpie. Put it really big on a poster board or just write it directly on the wall so that you don't forget. Okay, you ready? You got that Sharpie? Here goes. The presidential election this year, and pretty much every year, is much less important than the congressional election you're going to vote on this year. That's right. The presidential election, while it consumes our news and our media and our internet and our thoughts and our conversations and everything else. And there's all this talk about Biden versus Trump versus whatever. The parties spend over $1 billion campaigning for their candidates. Think about that. $1 billion, which 100% of it was donated by people. People donated $1 billion so that candidates could run ads. so that a president can get elected to office. Would a president get elected to office if they didn't spend $1 billion? Would our candidates be successful if we didn't donate $1 billion to them? Well, $2 billion, because $1 billion each. Would they lose if they had less than $1 billion? And let me ask you this one question. What would our homeless or needy look like if they got $2 billion? What if the local soup kitchen or the food mart or whatever had $1 billion? Might mean an end of a lot of struggles for people. But the parties are spending $2 billion to get your vote. A vote that's largely unimportant. Because whether Biden or Trump are in office, it really doesn't matter if we have an effective Congress. Now, I say that, and your first reaction is, oh, BS, the president can do whatever he wants, and Congress doesn't really do anything. Well, you're right. Professional politicians in Congress, people who are only interested in maintaining their career in politics, have gotten really comfortable not doing anything in Congress. Over the last, 20, 30, 40 years, Congress has accomplished less and less and less and less and less. And either willingly or unwillingly, they have given more and more and more power to the president through his executive actions because Congress is doing less. That's why I say the congressional election, the congressional race in your district is much more vital, much more important than the presidential race. And it's important for one reason. You see, when our Constitution was created, it was never intended that we would have a political class in this country. It was never envisioned. In fact, it was actively, there was active language written in the Constitution to try to detract from having a political class, from having professional politicians who would serve our government for, well, their entire career. But today, that's exactly what we have. We have people in Congress who say, hey, I'm going to go to Congress and I'm going to spend, well, the next 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years there. And I'm going to get rich. I'm going to become a millionaire. I have nothing going into it. But when I come out, I'm going to have $100 million. That's what happens. That's what our political class is. And what they do is, well, they yield their power to spend more and more and more tax dollars and, well, our debt, because they're spending more than they collect in taxes each and every year. And they pay off political favors so that they get, well, gifts in return. And those gifts amount to, well, literally hundreds of millions of dollars over their career. All along, then they're not, well, doing our bidding. They're not voting on issues that are important. They're specifically not voting on things that they think might actually make it to the president that matter to you and me. The Congress will vote on something if they're sure that the Senate will stall on it. And the Senate will introduce a bill if they know that Congress will never pick it up. But they very rarely push anything through that has any meaning to you and me. And that's all because they're professional politicians. They are career-minded politicians who want to work off the back of you and I, collect government paychecks, and accomplish absolutely nothing. This election cycle, and well, every election moving forward, it's important that you and I pay attention to our congressional candidates. And it's even more important that regardless of their party affiliation and whether or not you define yourself as being blue or red, it's really important that we select on the ballot the candidate who isn't the incumbent, the candidate that hasn't been in office yet. We need to make a change. And the change is that we need, as American voters, to set term limits. And the term limit in Congress should be 1. A 2-year term. Go to Congress, vote the way that your constituents want you to, and get out. Get back into the real world. That way you don't have time to become corrupt. You don't have time to become part of the swamp. You don't have time to make backroom deals and get yourself rich. You're in Congress to do a service to your constituents, to do a service for the district that you represent at the federal level. And then it's time for you to go back and live in that district, to be held accountable for the things that you voted for and against, and to live amongst us. Because when we do that, when we only let you have 1 term, that means that you are 100% accountable to us, not to the party, not to some, big, rich, lobbying arm of a corporation or a group of companies or a foreign entity, because we're the ones that you have to come back and see. We're the ones that you have to come back and live amongst. You're not going to be a millionaire because you were a congressman. In fact, you're just going to be, a former congressman. And that's honorable. And I appreciate that. But we, the American people, need to understand that every congressman should only serve 1 term. And it should never be a professional politician. It should be somebody who has some ideas and is willing to take 2 years of their life to serve the people by sitting in Congress and voting on sensible laws and, reinforcing the Constitution as it lays out the responsibilities of the federal government, the state governments, and the freedoms and liberties of the people. The only way we can accomplish that is by, putting new blood into Congress. This year and every 2 years, when 100% of Congress is up for re-election. As long as we do that, we the people win. The professional politicians, they lose because we eliminate that class of people in this country. But we also see that the corruption in the swamp that is Washington, D.C. quickly dissipates. Because you can't corrupt somebody who isn't beholden to their party. You can't corrupt somebody who's only going to be there for a single term. You can't promise somebody re-election and all kinds of campaign funds and everything else if in 1 term they're going to be gone and replaced by somebody else. So when we find people who are fresh, who don't have a political background, who don't have aspirations of spending their entire career in Washington, D.C., when we have people who say, I only want to go there for 1 term to do something, whatever that something is. I want to go and I want to fight for this. And then I'm coming home. Those are the people that you and I need representing us in Congress. Those are the people, it doesn't matter if they've got an R next to their name or a D next to their name. Those are the people that we need to select. R or D, liberal or conservative, whatever it is. They don't have to 100% relate to us. They don't have to be the same party that we've been programmed to be a part of. They just need to be willing to go and serve a single term and accomplish something in Congress and then come home. Because that is the best solution for, you and me, for we the people. And that is exactly the type of person that we need in Congress. I'm sure that there are some candidates that are watching this video, or, their parties, because even the candidates are spending millions of dollars on a 2-year term, which is absolutely ridiculous. Unless you have aspirations of turning it into a career and, making millions and millions and millions of dollars for yourself and your family in the long run. But if you're only going to do it for 2 years and you are watching this, I applaud you. And you know what? I will do whatever I can, regardless of what district you're in, anywhere in this country. I will do whatever I can to help a candidate who only wants to go to Congress for a single term to accomplish something. I don't care what that something is, and then come back into your community. That is exactly what the Constitution intended. That's what our forefathers, when they created this beautiful country, intended for us. And that's a way that we, the people, regain control of our freedom, our liberty, and, well, our government. Because remember, the United States of America is comprised of a government by the people, of the people, and for the people. The only way we're going to be for the people is if we are of the people. That means common people, people like you and me, need to be in office. We need to be in Congress. We need to be in the Senate for a single term and then come back and continue to be, well, the people. That is what makes America great. You and me. And those are the people that you and I should vote for. Well, this year and every time there is an election for either house of Congress. You have been listening to the American Soundbite. This is a podcast that features common sense thoughts of an everyday American. This has been the most valuable 10 minutes of your Sunday morning, and I applaud you for joining us for the conversation today. Hey, before you go, down at the bottom of the app that you're listening to the program in, there is a like button. If you like the content, if you like the format of the show, if you like what we do, click on it. That lets me know that you enjoyed it and, well, encourages me to continue doing it in the future. If you didn't like it, or if you loved it, or if you absolutely hated it, type some comments in the comment section. I do read those, and, well, it does help me to make the program better moving forward. While you're at it, right next to the like button right over here, well, right next to that is the share button. Let your friends and family know that you start your day by listening, and they should too. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. All right, well, that was a wrap. That was our show for today. That was the program, and I appreciate you joining us. I do hope you have a great day. I'm on my way to Herb's Tavern for breakfast because they have an awesome breakfast, and, well, it's a day that we can actually eat outside and enjoy it. So that's where I'm going. If you're going to be up there on Detroit